Choose your character.
All right. Welcome back to the Geekset podcast, the only podcast that blend hip hop culture and geek culture together. I'm your boy Deuces, and this is 101 with Deuces, the place where I speak with creators, curators, and people that you should know. And today, man, we have a whole legend in the building. I'm talking about 40 plus years in the game. We got the one and only Bill Duke. How are you doing, man?
God bless you, but I'm well. Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. So, one of the things that I love to do on my platform is make sure we give people their flowers while they're here. And I know that you've gotten your flowers by so many people, but your list of accomplishments and things that you are a part of is so impressive. I mean, to be 40 plus years in the game, from acting to directing to writing to, just being the books that you put out. And from my fans to you, I want to make sure that like, as soon as I put up that I was interviewing you, so many people were so excited just to have you on somewhere to be celebrated, to talk about, and everybody had something that they referenced, like, oh yeah, in Black Lightning, or in Predators, or excellent. It was just so dope to see that everybody had their personal connection with you. So I want to make sure you know that, man. From my fan base to you, we appreciate the work that you put in and everything that you bring to this industry.
God bless you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I wanted to get into a couple of things in regards to that, right? One of the first things that I noticed, and I wanted to kind of get your insight on, is that with hip hop being such a big culture, and you are seemingly synonymous with hip hop, I wanted to get like, what does hip hop mean to you in your life that, that keeps you so connected?
Well, I think hip hop and rap, one of the things it did, it gave a voice to our community.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, some of it was gangster. If you go back to KRS-One and others, it was more than gangster. It was insightful.
Yeah.
And it brought humanity to us. Sometimes we were seen as these gangster type of negative people in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
But they talked about families, and they talked about our humanity, and they talked about those things. And that was an eye-opening experience, not only to our community, but to the world.
Yeah.
Because the music traveled globally.
Yeah. And so, it's dope to see, like, because an actor of your stature, sometimes it'll be a divide, because like there's all these artists, all these rappers who are trying to hop into movies and stuff like that. And, there's a lot that put in the work. Like I said, we can tell the ones who actually put in the work, but it's like, I feel like you have worked with a lot of people who at their start, but they put in the work. Like when you was working with, Dr. Dre and Snoop, and you see all the things that they do, or when you was working with 50 Cent, or, working with Queen Latifah, like you see the actors and actresses that put in the work. And it just seems like you are part of like the nod of, okay, this person, we should take them serious because they're aligned with you. And I think that's so dope in regards to that. You've had your hands in helping a lot of people.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that.
Yep. So, with everything that you like, you are, I like to equate you as like
unfortunately, a lot of them have forgotten that.
No, but like, you're like a film historian. Like when I hear you talk in your interviews and you talk about the film industry, right? I love the insight and in-depth that you go in with it, right? And then you have like your youth program that you're working on with the Duke Media Foundation that is pretty much, investing into the future of this film industry.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get into like about your youth program and more that you are doing with them.
Well, we do two things. We introduce them to media literacy, which is the future of our industry,
mm-hmm.
and financial literacy. A lot of people in this industry make money, but they're they spend the dollar, but they know how to use a dollar.
Yeah.
So we teach them both ways. You know, there are people in our culture, you're not going to believe this, but make $100 million and go broke.
Yeah. Yeah. We hear the horror stories every now and then, but yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And somehow that has to be improved because money has to be more than spent. It has to be used. So we teach financial literacy. We have Karen A. Clark, who's a banker. She comes in and teaches that. We have various people coming in and teaching technology in terms of our industry, where it's going, and also how to tell a story. It's not just having a camera, but there are story arcs and there are character arcs. What are they? How do you fulfill them? And so we try to give them structural understandings of creativity also.
Yeah. And it's so important to give back to the community that way, because like I love how like a lot of the things that you get involved with, like with your businesses, is based off of a need or something that's missing within our culture, right? Like you have your Unite network that you said that you launched it because the news was just so negative, and you wanted to kind of have more positivity out there, report on the news that's out there, report on the great things that's going. And I think that like anytime that your base comes from like, I want to fill this void, or I want to be the change that I want to see, that's the one that like I think that that's always really dope. Like I told you pre the interview, with our podcast, we're also working on a documentary called the Black Geek documentary, right? Because I wanted to tell the story of us, coming from us. I wanted to tell the story of being a geek or a nerd, loving all these fandoms, but from the Black perspective and the things that we have to go through, right? And doing the research for this, you had said something that I said, yo, like this was destined for me to talk to Bill Duke, because he was talking to, I forgot the young lady's name, but you were saying like, the old way, you had to get something together, you had to get the budget and everything like that. And like, you was waiting for somebody to come. But nowadays, with people shooting movies on iPhones and things like that, you can just get out and go, right? So I've been fortunate enough to interview people such as yourself who are also within like a lot of these geek fandoms. So now I'm talking to them, telling them my story and the idea of me doing this documentary. And now I got like legit talent that's attached to this documentary. We're filming for a year. We're going to a comic book convention to kind of capture the culture. And then we're going to do these interviews. But like, as I'm going down this journey, I said, yo, like 2-3 years ago, I would have got into my own way saying like, okay, I need somebody to give me a budget, where now it's just me and my team going out. And I was like, yo, I like your philosophy on that. Like, you got to get out there and go.
That's right. Before we were waiting to be discovered, now you can discover yourself.
Yeah.
And, not only can you create the content, but you have a platform to distribute it and market it. If you build a business model, you can make money.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to encourage people to stop thinking about the past and really invest in their own futures.
Yeah. And it's so important that you're hitting on both realms, because again, it's like, when you talk to the kids about like building a good story and fleshing out an idea, but also talking about that financial literacy, like those are the two things that's like, we don't necessarily always get taught, especially the finance part, right? So especially coming from somebody such as you, and then this whole program behind it, it means that much so important, because now instead of jumping into this business and already being in debt, you can jump into this business, but already thinking about how can I monetize this? And I love that.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's called show business.
Right.
That's right.
So I mean, is that the biggest change that you've seen from the start to now of from where you're at, is that we are able to take more charge on our own? Like, because with 40 plus years in the game, you saw it from when they wasn't really accepting us to now we have more people behind that camera, more writers in those writers' rooms, more directors and everything, like so it's like that trajectory, that change in the industry. How was that firsthand for you to see?
How was it what?
How was it firsthand for you to see like how the industry shifted and now we're getting more opportunities?
It was a blessing. I mean, it's like, I think a lot of people created the opportunity, like, Spike Lee, for example, and John, they give humanity to our community.
Yeah.
It's not only that they showed our community and the streets, they showed the families of these boys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
John Singleton and Spike, they gave insight into who we are as human beings.
Yeah.
And that's something that was not seen. Melvin Van Peebles did it, Sweetback's, Badass Song and some other films he did. He was a pioneer. He never gets the credit he deserves. But Melvin Van Peebles was a great pioneer. And so not only in terms of acting in stories, but directing also.
Yeah.
So I'm just simply saying that there are people who gave us, how can I say, their stories applied not only to our community, but to all people.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I celebrate today.
Yeah. And I think that's always the biggest aspect of it. Because like, if you can show the family, right, if you can show that love that family has, or that push, or even the pressure that families go through, a lot of the times we get like, it's not the most best outlook, but like a lot of the time, we often want our kids to be 100% better than us. So a lot of the times we may give a harder push on certain things. If you didn't finish high school, then you're going to really push for your kids to finish high school.
That's right.
Right. You're going to really, because you don't want them to go through the barriers and have the hurdles that you had to jump through to get there. Right.
Right.
Exactly.
What
I'm saying? And so it's like, to show that aspect, like, yeah, we may be in the hood, or we may come from, hardened areas, but the family aspect is still there. We still are fighting to put food on that table. We're still fighting for our kids to have a better life. If I grew up in the gang banging lifestyle, yeah, that's all I know. Or that may be that may be something that I think is my only worth. But you know what? My kids don't have to go through that, and I'm going to try to steer them away from that life as much. So I love how, like I said, there's layers to those movies. Like, you think that it's one thing, but when you break it down and go over those themes, those layers really tell that true story.
What you so eloquently just described is the distinction between being a mother and father and a parent.
Yeah.
See, that's what parents do.
Yeah.
You see, they make sure that you don't go through what they went through. Mm-hmm. See, a mother and father can just have a baby.
Right.
But parenting that child, that's a whole other deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's super impactful in regards to that. So like, and,
yes.
And I love, like I said too, also like with you directing, and I think that I've talked with other media people, and it was like, it's very important for us to tell our story. So like,
yes.
When you was doing your documentary, was it black girls, right? No, dark girls, right? And you said that there was a lady who was like, "Hey man, why you airing out our dirty laundry?" And you was like, "Hey, because it's stinking here," but the thing about it is that, when we think about like police brutality, one of our biggest issues with it is it's not all cops are bad. It's that the cops that are not bad are not speaking out against the cops that are bad, right?
Right,
so
it's
right. So when we think about us and our culture, it's like, yeah, we know what's going on and the problems within our community. But if we are not going to be the ones that's calling it out, or at least trying to address it or talk about it, then yeah, we're just as bad as the cops that we say are not speaking out against the bad cops. Like, we need to fix ourselves.
Brother, that's a very courageous thing you just said, because most of us don't even want to think that. In other words, it's always somebody else.
Yeah.
but it's like, like I know. There are some people in our community we want to be around, and there's other people we don't want to be around.
Right.
Chris Rock, and excuse my use of the word, but Chris Rock said it so brilliantly. He said, when I'm at the ATM bringing out money, I look over my shoulder, and I'm in the community. He said, I ain't looking out for black folks. I'm looking out for niggas.
Yeah.
There's a big distinction. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because someone will go up there and stab him and rob him for the money.
Mm-hmm.
And they ain't saying, well, he's a black man like me.
Yeah.
They're thinking green.
Yeah.
And I know that there's desperation, and I know that people do those things, they're desperate many times. But at the same time, when are we going to have a regard for each other?
Yeah.
That we pass on. I just became a grandfather.
Oh, congratulations. 6 weeks ago. Congratulations.
6 weeks ago. Thank you. And I want to leave something to my grandson.
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave hope.
Yeah.
So that's why I created the Unite Network.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that somehow we have to change our behavior.
Yeah. Somehow
we got to do that.
Yeah, it's one. I often speak about that, because again, with my walk of life and where I'm at right now, especially on this, this is my first full feature length thing that I'm working on with this documentary. And the first thing that I outlined, I said, look, I don't only want to talk about the good. Like, there's things within this, we call it blurred culture, which is Black nerd culture. And it's like, there's things that we do need to address. Like, if we are going to grow as a culture, we got to have those conversations, just like how you've seen the shift in hip hop. 90s hip hop was heavy on the misogyny, and now you see today's hip hop, there's a lot of more artists that are more socially conscious, that are speaking out.
Yes.
They're saying things, they're changing. It's like, that's learned. We had to learn how to, hey, that wasn't cool, or that's not the way. There's better ways, right? So same thing with this blurred culture. I'm like, look, we're gonna highlight our celebrities, right? We're gonna talk about the people that we love, but we also need to make sure that we address the inner hate, the inner racism, the colorism. We got to talk about these things within this culture in order for us to grow. And I think that's
right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's just, yes, there's cop killings, which I totally deplore. But there are things we're doing to each other also that have to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
I made the film Dark Girls because the kinds of things we do to each other, in terms of colorism, still to this day,
man.
This is 2022, man.
Yeah.
And we still light skin against dark skin and black. It's like,
yeah. And it makes no sense, because like I said, it's no matter what, like we say, you still run through the same issues right now. There may be sub factors of the issue, because like I said, I know like light girls didn't get the same type of reception, but like the conversation was still like the same thing. Like, whether you're dark skinned, whether you're light skinned, they still see us as Black, and we still go through those same issues and those same things, right? So like, I thought that it was very courageous for you to do both ends, because like, I get it, like, it's become this social construct that like, okay, we can talk about the dark skin like issues, right? And we got to make sure that we talk about it. And it's like, yes, we do. There's the importance of Black men making sure that we speak up about that as well. But then it became like, but if you are of a lighter complexion, you can't be in this argument or this fight. And it's like, we can't exclude, like, like they said, because they're still going through the same things, maybe a little bit different. They may have a little bit of, a leg up because their skin is a little bit lighter, but in the surface, and when it all comes down to it, we still are Black people that have to handle and address this.
That's right.
Talk about it.
Totally right.
Yeah. So like that was those. I just like the trajectory of the things that you do, because like I feel like I feel like even your inspiration on getting into acting, like it kind of set the standard. Like you said that Sidney Poitier was somebody that you saw. There wasn't a lot of us in acting, and that was somebody that inspired you. And and I'm like, you look at the work that Sidney Poitier did, like it meant something. He did a lot of things that meant something. And so it's like, when I see the stuff that you put into play, like I think that like it goes into play in regards to that. And then even like your outlook on things. Like when I was listening to an interview where he was talking about Black Lightning, which amazing work in Black Lightning, man.
Thank you.
But like, I like how you broke it down. Like, look, this is a superhero movie, superhero show, but it's really still a family show. Like you see the family go through, all the stuff. You see you see a husband and a wife, you see 2 daughters, like, and I love how, like I said, I love that outlook of that show, because that's, to me, what with all of our Black characters in like, once you dive deep into the bio of that character, you get into that family aspect, and it makes what that character is.
Exactly right. Totally right.
Yep. So with Black Lightning, because like I said, you've been in both you've been in both DC and Marvel. One of the fan questions is, I know you're a Marvel fan, but are you still Marvel over DC, DC Marvel? Like, where do you land on the spectrum?
I'm equal, I just like, it's like, they say comic book, but the great ones, to be able to relate to someone in a comic book.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's insane, because they're supposed to be little comic figures.
Yep.
But sometimes the writing is so good.
Yeah.
That you're actually identifying, that's how can I say? That's why I love great writers. It's like they can make you identify through the humanity they put. One of my favorite shows on TV used to be Dexter.
Oh my God, I love Dexter, man.
This is a serial killer, right?
Right.
But he's killing people worse than himself.
Yes.
And so I'm feeling guilty because I'm feeling something for a serial killer.
Right. Like, you on his side, because like you really get in depth in it, because even he even philosophized his killing. Like, he talks about his dark passenger. He talk about his, like, he has a rule, like, okay, I got to check all this off before. And he's so like systematic with how he does it. But like, yeah, you feel for him. Yes. By like season 3, he's like legit a serial killer at this point. But you start feeling bad when the police are closing in on him. It's like wait a minute.
That's right. That's right. But that's great. That's great writing, though, man.
Yeah. And I think what's funny is, as kids, when we read these comic books, right? Like, you read the X-Men and you just love X-Men. But then as you grow older, you realize, like, yo, they just really retold Martin and Malcolm X with Xavier and Magneto. And it's like, yo, that is crazy. Like, that writing was woven into that.
Brilliant stuff, man.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And then, so I wanted, one of the questions of geek culture that we always like did you get a chance to meet Stan Lee when you was working on X-Men?
No, unfortunately, no. But it was like,
oh man,
yeah.
But
I just love working with the actors and being there, and being part of it.
Yeah, I mean, especially with like how big these movies and things are going now and everything. Now it's because it's like, you start, like saying, it's the writing in these graphic novels. That's what I generally call them, because that's what they really are. They're graphic novels, but it's the writing in that, because like, when you think about, like, even when we get into Black Panther, right? What I love about Black Panther is that it brought out a culture, but it forced a lot of people to do research and go back and read, right? To the point where now we have the Wakanda language as a book. We have that backstory about, just African tribes. And it's like, it makes people go back to like, oh, I want to find my roots. I want to learn more about it. And anything that can do that to some people, I love that so much.
I call it edutainment.
Yeah, edutainment. Yeah. Yeah, because it educates you and entertains you at the same time.
But it's not easy. But when it's done well, it's wonderful.
Yep.
Everybody has the stereotypical on what a Black geek is. Are you familiar with the term blurred?
Blood, no.
Right.
Some people said it came off of Scrubs. Some people said it came off the internet. I don't honestly really know.
Don't you see the skin, the eyebrows, the hair?
Yo, my geeks still rock, Dunks or Jordans or whatever.
Did I do that?
It's exciting. It's like, holy, oh, my dog is gonna start barking.
It's all right.
She's excited about it too.
And same as you said, like a barbershop talk, like we would go into really in-depth conversations about these theories and like, well, what if and how come?
It's not unusual to be loved.
Right, but we talk about anime, video games, comic books and stuff like that, but when you hear us talk about it, the passion sounds like we arguing Jordan and Bron.
What do you mean? What does that even mean? What does that even mean?
Like, it sounds like barbershop talk.
Because you don't know the history, don't mean it ain't happened.
You broke that down right there.
But when you see the Black Geek, you don't see that. You see the socially awkward glasses. Well, this is me. And that's not a lot of us. A lot of us do sound and talk like us. You know what I'm saying?
Because it becomes stereotypical, as if that's where our strength comes from.
I don't know the geek that you talked about before. I know the geek you're talking about right now, though.
It was sort of a call sign so we could find each other on message boards.
Anime gives you life lessons throughout that whole thing. Like, there's not one anime that I know of that doesn't teach you to never give up.
It's just like, I just love seeing us go into the world and go into these different spaces and create things that weren't there before. And then it was like Miles Morales is like the normal, Black person in the United States.
That was my first blurred moment, was seeing, Storm on the X-Men cartoon series. And I was like, wow, that's a Black woman and she's strong, she's powerful.
That's what I want for us. I want us to be that voice.
So with everything that you've been a part of, like, you've been a part of some strong fan bases. Like, you are a part of, like I said, the DC fan base, Marvel fan base. Now, obviously, like I said, with Prey going crazy right now, and you are a Predator OG. What has been the most fun fandom that you've been a part of, that when you interact with those fans?
Well, it's unfortunately not my choice because wherever I go,
I think I know what you're going to say.
You know exactly what I'm going to say. Menace to society.
I know. So,
and everybody, I was in Japan or China, and I'm walking down this street. And these young guys say, "Oh, hey, you be a Duke, be Duke." I say, "Yeah. You know you don't puck up, right?"
When did you realize that this has taken on its own life?
Man, I swear, wherever I go, people, that phrase, for some reason, people just constantly relate to that film in terms of that scene,
Yeah. Was that in the script, or was that like ad lib?
No, that was in the script. The Hughes brothers put that in the script.
Oh, man.
They're brilliant, man.
Yeah.
And, they know how to take something and condense it,
Yeah. I also think it was the way that it was shot too, because interrogation,
camera going around in the circle.
Yeah, it made it so much more. And then you sold that line so hard, because it was like, okay, wait. It made you, because now you tripped up yourself, and now anytime anybody's telling a story and they tripping up on their words or they saying it, it's like you immediately equate with that, now you don't fucked up, right? And I love that it gets rehashed on so much. You reprised it in the Boondocks. I think you did it in somebody's music video. I love it. You at some point you probably gonna have to sell merch. You probably gonna have to get you don't fucked up merch.
That's what I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Help me.
Right. Now, with Prey and everything in the Predator series, of course everybody wants to know how did you like Prey?
I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I thought it was really good, man. I love the Predator Alien franchise. I love that whole franchise so much. And I love everything about it. And I thought that this was this was one of the best out of the franchise.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. And you know, when you see things that continuously live on, and because like as I was looking like people was constantly hitting you up about it, and then obviously, you know, you gave your nod to the actress saying, hey, you know, welcome to the Predator family and everything like that. Like, as an actor and seeing like how much you mean to a franchise and everything like that, like, how do you not stay, like, I guess, how do you pick and choose like which one that you're going to stay super connected with, or is everyone part of like a part of you?
They're all a part of, you know, my history and my legacy. So I don't choose particular ones. I just appreciate the fact that I'm still appreciated, that my work is still appreciated.
Yeah.
Because God has been very good to me, giving me opportunities and open doors for me that I couldn't have opened myself. So I don't start tripping like, oh, you know, I did this. No. You know, I told you I got my first directing job ever. I had been going to the American Film Institute, and I made a short film that got some awards and stuff. And so my agent tried to shop me around to different studios. They said, nah, we'll give him a second chance, not his first. So I got the press. So I went, you know, I had an interview with David Jacobs over at Knots Landing. It lasted 5 minutes. I said, that's a lot of crap. Why they put me over here? So I went on, I do transcendental meditation. So I went on a meditation retreat. I was there for a week, and my agent called and said, hey, David Jacobs gave you a directing job on Knots Landing. I said, what? I told everybody I knew. I celebrated. 2 weeks later, I was in pre-production, and Joe Wallenstein was the producer. Said, "Hey, Bill, great pre-production, but we knew that you were going to be good based on your reel." I said, "Reel? What reel?" He said, "Well, the reel of the other shows that you did." I said, "No, I just got it. AFI. I just had it." He said, "Well, wait a minute." He goes into David Jacobs' office. David Jacobs had mixed my box up with somebody else's. That's how I got my first job. Okay.
That was like divine intervention.
Who did that? Right?
Did it. And you know, that sometimes you gotta put your faith in a higher power sometimes. It's like, you know what? If this is my walk, this is my walk. This is my walk. You know, and then like, you know, and like I said, you go on to be like the first Black director in so many things, specifically Dallas. I love that story. I love how the guy at the gate didn't want to let you in, and you was like, wait a minute, hold up. You know what I'm saying? I love your thought process of it, because when you tell that story, you always say, all right, I know what I wanted to say, but you know what? Let me take the high road. But I love that, man, because you know what? It's like it shows that, like, you know, yes, we got to go through extra hoops sometimes, right? In that moment, like, you was faced with a moment where it's like, this was a grand moment for you. Oh, I'm the first Black director to direct on Dallas. Like, this is a grand moment, and in that moment, that guy kind of almost could have took that away from you, right? And you chose the high road. And again, like that's that thought process. We constantly are thinking a few steps ahead because of things like that.
I always say you can't be playing checkers in a chess game.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, Malcolm X said it best. He said, no matter how good a football player you are, if the name of the game is baseball, you better get yourself a damn bat. He said, don't be running around the bases with a football in your hand, because you're going to be told, you're a good little football player. Keep on playing that football. And you run around bases.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, another thing that I noticed about you is that you are not only just a person who does amazing work, but you are a true fan of this artwork, right? Of this art form. Sorry about that. And, you know, you do this thing on Twitter. I think it's only on Twitter, but you do this Bill Duke Pioneer Award. And I love how you are giving it to, you know, people that are making waves in this? What was the thought process behind that?
I think we're just trying to let people know that they have significance, that they are relevant in a business that it's, I mean, I think, I don't know the exact number, but it's like the Screen Actors Guild.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of the guild do you think works annually?
I don't know. I would probably say lower than 30%.
I think it's 12.
Oh man, I didn't think it was that low.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
The rejection, the pain.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I respect people who stay in there and stick with it no matter what, because it's rough.
Yeah. So with you being a director, and you've been in like every type of, I would say every genre. What is your favorite genre to work on? Let's start from the director. So what is your favorite genre to direct?
I don't know if I have a favorite, but I like it's no matter what the genre is, that by the end of the movie, if you cared about somebody, if you cared about, it could be an action film, it could be a horror film, it could be a drama, it could be a comedy, but in the final analysis, if you cared about the protagonist, they could be crazy, they could do insane stuff,
right?
But something in them made you say,
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, that makes 100% sense. That was one of the things that I was giving, like, with doing the podcast, we got to give our opinions on things. And was it James Cameron? I can't. One of the older, like, classic directors, they were coming at Marvel and the Marvel movie, saying that that's not real cinema, right? And I said, if I'm not mistaken, movies are supposed to tell a story, and you're supposed to be moved by it. And I said, when I was in Infinity War and Marvel Infinity War, and Thanos did the snap, when I tell you that the movie went off and it was dead silence and people was distraught, and then I was like you can, that's feeling. And then in Endgame, when that moment where everybody came back and the eruption of joy and the amount of people, grown people, that were crying in that theater, I said, there's no way that you're not telling me that this is not good cinema.
That's right.
That I'm like, if you have people boo-hooing, I'm talking about bawling, and not even like tears of like sadness. This is like that tears of joy. Like, you get overwhelmed because, like, in the way that they shot those two movies, they took you on a ride. You felt, even though these are superheroes, you felt like we are going to lose. And then you have that relief when you see T'Challa and Black Panther walk out, and George Malaji walk out, and you see, and it's like you feel this overwhelm, like, oh, we gonna be all right. And I was like, that is true. You cannot say that that's not true cinema.
I agree 1,000%.
Yeah. So one thing that I do like to ask, especially Black people who's been in this industry as long as you have, is one of the topics that we do talk about is that we're tired of, well, I'm not saying we're, but there's a group of people that they're saying that they're tired of slave trauma movies. Now, you as a director and somebody who's been in this game for 40 plus years, what is your take on these movies that are telling these stories from back in the day, or slave trauma movies?
Well, I think that we don't like redundance in terms of just, but, slavery was our Holocaust.
Yes, it was.
And it never should be forgotten.
No, not at all.
Because, and what's scary now, there are certain schools and high schools that are talking about taking Black history out of the curriculum.
Yeah, I saw that, which is crazy to me.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And you know what I said? Because it makes the children feel guilty.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, it's like, no, they should learn from the mistakes that their parents made in the past. But taking that out of schools to me is just, I don't know, man. It's sad to me.
It's one of those things. Is like we can't take it out. Like again, if you only tell the highlights of, the good times of American history, then you're truly not learning, right? It's like the person who I don't watch. Let's say if I don't watch basketball, but I tune in to First Take, and now I'm arguing with you who've been watching basketball your whole life, saying, "No, let me tell you why LeBron's better than Jordan." Because it's like, wait a minute, like we can't even have an intellectual conversation. Like if you are a sports historian and you still have this take that LeBron's better than Jordan or whatever the case, then yeah, we can have a good conversation. But if all your talking points is only going off of, well, I saw this on ESPN and this is what they said, it's like so it's like the same thing with history. Like we can't just talk about the good times. We got to talk about that path and that journey in order to in order to be properly educated on where we're at.
Well, people paid a price for us to be here, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, I was brought up in segregation, but my mother was born up in West Point, Mississippi, and my father in Virginia. And they saw things like, Mississippi in those days, if you were going to church on Sunday, because there were wooden sidewalks and then there was dirt, there was no cement on the roads. If you were walking this direction and a white family came towards you, you had to step down into the mud, put your head down until they got 100 yards away, then get back and walk until another white. Yes, can you imagine what they went through?
That's it. That's you can't. But here's the thing. That's why it's so important for us to to at least have that conversation in regards to it. Like one of the things that I hate that, and I say my generation, because I see it a lot where somebody will post a clip during those times and be like, oh man, it couldn't have been me. I couldn't have been my ancestors. And I'm like, bro, you can't say that, because one, now you are making them seem like they were weak, when in reality there was so much against them that it's not a sign of weakness, because they didn't just buck up and fight back. And so it's one of those things that's like, yeah, we need those stories, but not to chastise them or to judge them for not taking immediate action. We need to know how we got here, what built us who we are, and how, and what made, our ancestry. It's like I talk about our ancestral planes. One of the things that I love about like just anime graphic novels, how they go back into the history. When you watch a lot of these characters, they reflect, right? Or you read about these characters, they always reflect. They talk about their past self, their parents, their grandparents, but it's because it's what makes them who they are, like whatever their core of their character is. So even if you don't know who your great grandparent is, what they went through is still within your bloodline, and it's what makes you who you are. So it's like, it is important that we still have those conversations.
Part of your genetics.
It's part of your genetics, man. So 2 more segments and I'll get you out here. One of the fun things that I like to have especially with characters and actors who have so many characters. If you had to do a buddy cop movie with 2 of your characters that you portrayed, which 2 characters would be in a good buddy cop movie?
Menace to Society.
Oh yeah, of course, you got to have him.
I think the one with Richard Gere.
Oh,
forgot the name of the movie.
Yeah, I can't think. Oh, hold on. But I know, but that would be, because like I always say, when you do a buddy cop movie, you got to have the one that's like, he's a little bit off the rails, and you got to have the straight shooter.
Right, that's exactly right.
Right, you got to have the straight shooter, because you got to have the one that's like, okay, this is the live wire and everything like that. And you've played so many iconic characters, man. So it's just like to have that and to be able to do that and bring two characters in, because like right now we're in the world where everybody has a universe, right? So we got to build we got the Bill Duke universe, like we got where those characters intertwine and everything like that. So this is more of a philosophical question, but it's more so like you've met and talked and worked with so many greats in every aspect, from filming, from actors, from music and everything like that. I want to know like influences, like top 5 influences in your life. It doesn't have to be in order or anything like that, but just 5 moments with people that you that has had left a mark on your life or influenced you.
Sidney Poitier, number 1. Paul Robeson.
Oh, okay.
I had the honor of working and directing Cecily Tyson.
Oh, I know that was you intimidated? Man. Was you intimidated going into that?
More than intimidated, I was bowing. I bowed down. She told me to get up. I said, no, just. And I was directing a film with Gregory Hines in it. And we had a lunch break. And he said, hey, Bill, I want you to come. And I said, what's going on? He says, come over, I'll introduce you to somebody. So I go backstage, and there's someone sitting on the bench with his head down. And he says to the person, hey, man, this is Bill Duke, the director. And the man raises his head. It was Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh,
man. I was speechless, man.
I definitely would be.
Sammy Davis Jr. was the geniuses of geniuses.
Yeah.
Talent that, and most people don't even know who he was, unfortunately, but man, talking about brilliant and talented and smart and courageous.
Yeah.
Another person, and I met him in Paris when McDonald's restaurants first started. I was in Paris. I'd never been to McDonald's. I went to McDonald's to order something. Sat down and ate. I looked to my left, and at a table was James Baldwin. Man,
that had to be super. Like I said, that's somebody like, especially at McDonald's, you didn't expect to see him there.
No. It's like, and I just said hello, and he was so humble.
That's cool, man.
You know,
I always love when people. The people who seem larger than life are very humble and cool, right? So this is my moment of honesty with you. When your people said, yeah, Bill Duke will be down, I called my mom, I called my dad, I told them, because I'm like, yo, I've been watching you since forever, right? And it's one of those things like we don't have any backing, we don't have a network. It is literally me utilizing my tools and resources to reach out to people and seeing who's available, right? So like anytime that I am able to get somebody of your stature, I hold that high, because and then you also sometimes get like this, like, man, he's like, they're probably gonna cancel me sometime, they're gonna realize, what I'm saying? So like you get in your head, but it was like your people was so communicative, they were very helpful and everything. And then like even what I'm saying, soon as you got on, it's like, even during this interview, it's like, I'm literally out of my skin right now, but it's like, you're so humble and so dope of a person. So it's like, I can imagine that, as you are going through life and meeting these people in person, but they're that humble, is like, yo, this is crazy, because like, yeah, I have you up here and here you are, just chill,
Human beings, man.
Yeah.
Human beings, man.
Yeah. So the last segment that we do is a recommendation, right? It could be something that you're reading, you're watching, you're listening to, but something that you believe our listeners and our watchers should jump into, like check out.
There's a book in terms of our history called Without Sanctuary. It's a book about what our great ancestors went through. A picture book about the lynchings and what they call nigger barbecues. They roasted us alive. The people that survived. So that's one. In terms of film, Michelli's book, The 5 C's of Cinematography.
Okay.
It's an incredible book in terms of teaching you about what is filmmaking, what is editing, what is the camera, lights. It takes you through step by step, and it's just wonderful. Wonderful.
Awesome.
There's a book called the book that it's named after one was called The Art of War.
Oh, I like The Art of War.
But there's another book called The War of Art.
Oh, I didn't know there was another one. Yeah.
Oh man, you got it. The War of Art. You got to read it.
Okay. Yeah.
The War of Art. Incredible book.
Yeah.
I've been very fun. I mean, there's so many more I could tell you about, but
yeah. But you know, one of the things that I love about doing this. So this is going to be probably like my 60th interview, right? And I interview a lot of our heroes and stuff like that. One thing that I love that is not even prepped, but every time that I've asked somebody Black in general to give a recommendation, everybody has always given more books than movies and music. And I love the fact that it's a lot of self-help, it's a lot of business, it's a lot of expanding your knowledge. And I just to me, it's one of those subtle pride points that I have. Like, look, on my platform, you're going to get some recommendations, but look at all these Black folks who are recommending we need to read more, continue to read, educate yourself, expand your mind. And I just love that so much, man.
Thank you, man. I think we have to continue to learn and grow and give and really think about where our legacy is going to really be for the children of the future. You have to leave them hope, man.
Yeah, definitely. So where can my people find you, and what do you want them to jump into to support you?
My new network, UniteNetworkTV.com. UniteNetworkTV.com. You turn on the news, it's mostly negative. But there are good things happening around this world that good people are doing. And I do interviews and different kinds of things. I put shows on eventually. Anthony Anderson, Cedric the Entertainer, and other people are supporting me. They're doing interviews on the show. I just want to leave a legacy of hope for our children. And just let them know that never stop, never give up. Never stop.
That's definitely a great message to end out on. Well, this has been One-on-One with Deuces, man. I've been your boy Deuces. This has been the most amazing Bill Duke. Appreciate you, man. And we are out. Peace.
God bless you, brother. And thank you for having me.
Thank you as well, man.
Flawless victory.